President Trump has started floating the idea of invoking the Insurrection Act. And yes, this would be a massive deal. Here he's answering questions from the media where he says that if he felt that he needed to invoke the Insurrection Act, that he would, saying that he would do so if people were getting killed or if he felt that mayors or governors were holding him up or if the courts were holding him up. He also says that he wouldn't invoke it if he felt that he didn't need to. But again, he said on in past occasions that he'll do whatever he feels he has to do to accomplish his goals, and other members of his administration have said the same. So, what is the Insurrection Act and what does it do? Well, here's some text on what it does. It allows the U.S. military to be deployed throughout the country, and it allows the federal government to federalize the National Guard. That means outside of the governor's jurisdiction, effectively, to go to different cities and states that the federal government feels it needs to send them to basically enforce the law. We've got some text down here at the bottom that kind of adds some context to that, saying it's specifically used to enforce federal laws when it's impossible to do so through ordinary judicial means. And I'm trying to duck and dodge this due to unlawful obstruction. And this bottom paragraph basically says it's also used to suppress domestic violence or unlawful conspiracies that hinder the execution of state and federal law. Now, the interesting thing to note is that here in this bottom paragraph, it's used to prevent people from being deprived of their constitutional rights, particularly when state authorities fail to act. Now, of course, the last example of this was during the civil rights movement. A lot of states and cities were not getting rid of Jim Crow or segregation. And so the federal government had to deploy the National Guard and federalize the National Guard to effectively enforce that. And to show he means business, here's a post from President Trump of some more text of the Insurrection Act. So all of this gets even more real whenever you see the rhetoric coming out of the White House. And here's a statement that I've already called out in a past video from President Trump, saying that the Chicago mayor and the Illinois governor should both be in jail. Here we have a report that ICE wants to build out a 24/7 social media surveillance team using Palantir. And here we have one major conservative commentator, I've also already used this screenshot before, basically calling them traitors to the United States. At the same time, here's the Oregon National Guard general saying that his troops would only be allowed to defend protesters from ICE. So, yes, while the president can invoke the Insurrection Act, that's not to say that everybody's just going to go with it. There's a lot of division in this country, especially within the government itself, about whether or not it should be used, about its legality, and about the legality of what ICE is doing. And I'm not necessarily talking just about deportations. I'm talking about more specifically their mistreatment of American citizens in the process and the absolute sidestepping of due process. So as you can see, and I've been talking about this in several past videos for a while now, the pretext is being set here by the administration to invoke the Insurrection Act. And honestly, I think it's just a matter of time.